Hey now, it's Sharon. I'm back to share some ideas on how we can better policing here in the U.S. And from what I'm seeing in today's culture, police culture, being retired for 5 years, 6 years, almost 6 years, and seeing what's going on now, a lot hasn't changed. Um, I am going to share a story, and then I got a question. I was an instructor at the academy. I was teaching a class, a 2-hour class on community policing. I taught the second half of the second hour. And during that second hour, I posed some questions, and then the class asked me some questions. And one of the questions that was asked, I don't remember exactly, but it had to do with slavery and the origin of policing here in the U.S. And I told them about the historical aspect of the slave patrols and what they were and what they meant. And yeah, I did that, and I answered the question, and then it got a little deeper. Someone asked about slave patrols specifically and what they were. I told them what they were. Basically, they were for slaves, to police the slaves and to quash any idea on rebellion. And they did it with excessive force, to include death and no fear of punishment. And so I kind of cut it off because it was getting really deep. I'm thinking everything's going good. The hour's over. I come to teach the next day, and the project manager comes over to me. He's like, Walters, we're gonna need you to sit down for the second hour and just observe. And I'm like, why? I'm here to teach the class. And they just said, there were some people that had an issue with, I guess you guys were talking about slavery. And mind you, they never asked me what happened. They just said there were some issues, and we're going to have a little discussion about it, I guess the higher ups or whatever, and we'll go from there. But we just don't want you to teach the second hour. Now, I said, okay. And I sat in the back of the class while the person that taught the first hour, she taught the second hour. And as I sat there, I started to get angry, like, you didn't ask me what was said or what was done. And then because it's talking about slavery, you just want me to be quiet about it. And whoever it was or whomever it was, they got upset because slavery was mentioned. And then when I tell you I was seething, but I just sat there, waited for the class to be over. A week went by, 2 weeks went by. I wasn't invited back to teach. And then I just said, you know what? I washed my hands of it. But I started to think about, like I said, the project manager never asked me what happened. And what happened was, like I told you, they asked about slavery and slave patrols and policing. I told them historical facts, not anything that I just thought of or invented in my mind. I told them about North Carolina or South Carolina, one of the Carolinas, and how slave patrols developed from there. And for that person or persons, whoever got upset to go to the project manager instead of coming to me, that said something. And then the project manager sit me down and say, we just have to talk some things through. Oh, she did mention I wasn't teaching to curriculum. But you didn't ask me. There was a question. There were questions that I was trying to answer to provide some information for the individuals. So again, I got upset. And then, like I said, I started to think about it. I'm like, these people, whoever it was, got upset. And fast forward to 2025, you see to this day, anytime slavery is brought up, people get upset and they don't want to talk about it. They want to shy away from it. And some folks say, okay, white folks are the ones getting upset and don't want to talk about it, or it's going to make their kids feel shame or guilt. And I say, why not? If you feel shame or guilt or embarrassment, that means you're a decent human being. Think about that. You're a decent human being if you saw slavery and you read about slavery and you know the truth about slavery, not the myths that they've been propagating throughout our U.S. Educational system. But you know the horrors. You've talked to people. You've read books. And you feel some guilt. You feel some responsibility for it. That means you're a decent human being. That means you have a heart. your mind and your heart are connected. But for some reason, what we see now, 2025, Smithsonian Museum, Black History Museum, the ideology is against America and its values. Values. That was a Freudian slip. Values. We were taught myths. We were taught mythology, if you will. We weren't taught the truth. And so for people to get upset, even that individual or individuals that went and said something to the project manager, never said anything to me, the fact that we brought up slavery, and like I said, it's a historical fact, slave patrols, that's where they originate from. And for me to be sat down, not asked what happened, and then to see it's still happening to this day. People get upset because they don't want to be embarrassed. They don't want to feel shame. They don't want to feel guilt. That means you have a heart. But it also means you have to go inside your heart and figure out what all is in there, what gives you the motives and the ideas that you have, or the things that you believed before. Like I said, we were sold a myth on American history. And to go in and deconstruct from that, that's what happened to me. I ended up deconstructing from being ostracized and retaliated against for whistleblowing on other officers. I told the truth. I was asked, I was told the truth. But then I was ostracized, I was retaliated against. That left me alone, and it left me alone with myself and my feelings and ideas and beliefs. And so I started to examine what was going on in my heart. I wrote about it. It's right here. My Middle Eastern Conflict, Looking Back at My Future. Take a look at the book. Take a look at the cover, the whole cover. It's available on lulu.com under the spirituality and reality tab. Religion tab, sorry. But yeah, I started to examine what was going on and some of the things that I would think and motives that I would have. Why did I feel guilty with certain things? This us versus them mindset that I had, and I was a part of them, and I was also a part of us wearing the uniform. So that was a conundrum in itself. I had to examine that and why I thought the way I did. But a lot of officers, I would venture to say, don't go inside themselves. They might do the whole kind of first level type of thought, I want to do good and I'm going to make some good decisions. But why do you make the decisions that you do? Why do you have the beliefs that you do? Why do you, for an example, you're in your patrol vehicle and you speed through the hood, windows up, radio playing, but then you slow down when you get to the ritzy area, the rich area, or the area where there's some nice stores and good food. You got to ask yourself that. And so a lot of officers don't want to do that. As long as I'm doing my job, that's it, that's all, But yeah, I realized in that moment, in that classroom, when I got sat down, there's something wrong when we don't want to hear the truth. When you get silenced because you're speaking the truth. It wasn't an idea that I had. I was facts that you can go look up, research for yourself. I am noticing now that I'm researching and going into slavery and policing more, I notice how certain search engines, they kind of lighten the word. Maybe because kids might look it up, I'm not sure. But it just seems really interesting how they describe slave patrols. And then when you go to a site like the NAACP and AACP, it describes it and its brutality, but it couples it with a sense of putting you right there in it. So I'm noticing some things. But yeah, ask yourself, this is the question. Why do people get upset when you mention slavery? Sometimes you get this, oh my God, it's not again. Do you really know what happened? Do you really know why policing is the way it is to this day? Do you care? Maybe you don't care until it happens to you. And that's what we're seeing now. Racism, systematic racism, not the individual stuff that you see people going through. That's it. That's part of it too, but it's an ideology and it's baked into the systems that uphold society. I'll talk about that another day. The pillars that uphold society and how racism is baked into it. But racism is baked into criminal justice. And I was a part of that for a long time. and the mindset. And I had to deconstruct to some degree. Not to say that I'm against policing and we don't need it. No, we need it. We need it. But yeah, the question that I have for you is, as a police officer or someone that knows an officer, and you don't necessarily have to be an officer, do you address the motives and the ideologies that you have? Are you afraid to? Or do you just brush it aside? I'm good. I treat everybody fairly. I don't see color. Yeah, that type of thinking. Yeah, ask yourself that. I wrote about it in the book. I tell you about my ideologies, some of them, and some of the beliefs that I had, and some of them that I had to deconstruct from. I think the book will help somebody. It'll definitely show you my example of what I went through in deconstructing some of the ideologies. This us versus them. I was deep in that. And the look down thing that I figured out about myself, looking down on people. I share that in the book. But yeah, that's all I want to share. As people are getting into, hopefully, the criminal justice system, they ask themselves those questions, that question, and then answer it truthfully. So you go in honestly. I think you should have the ability to put yourself in other people's shoes and truly understand the situation when you get into policing. All right, well, that's enough of that. I'll come back next week with another idea. Take a look at our online store. The link is in the description. The link for the book is in the description. And as is our tradition, you don't necessarily have to go through a thing to learn from it. Talk to you later. Bye.